Wyoming Territory, winter 1888. By the time Mei Lin Zhao reached the third boarding house, her baby had stopped crying. That frightened her more than the snow. For most of the afternoon, 10-month-old June had protested the Wyoming cold with every bit of strength his small lungs possessed. He had cried when the stagecoach stopped in Silver Creek. He had cried when Mei carried him down the wooden steps. He had cried as she walked from one unfamiliar building to another with a leather bag over her shoulder and a folded letter tucked safely inside her dress. Now he made no sound at all. Mei pressed her cheek against his forehead. June. The child stirred weakly beneath the blanket. Relief lasted only a second. Snow swept sideways along Silver Creek's main street, swallowing wagon tracks almost as quickly as they appeared. Shopkeepers were closing shutters. Horses stamped impatiently outside the livery. Above the western hills, the sky had turned the color of iron. Mei knocked again. The boarding house door opened several inches. A middle-aged woman peered through the gap. "I'm sorry," she said. "We're full. I can sleep on the floor." The woman looked at the bundled infant. "We don't have room for a baby. I have money. That isn't the problem." Mei had heard those words before. At the first boarding house, the proprietor had simply said no infants. At the second, every bed genuinely appeared occupied. At a small rooming house near the railroad, the owner had looked at Mei's face, then at June, and closed the door without explanation. She no longer had the energy to decide which rejection hurt most. "Please," Mei said. "Only tonight." The woman hesitated. For one hopeful moment, Mei thought she might change her mind. Then someone called from inside. The woman's expression tightened. "I'm sorry." The door closed. Mei stood beneath the awning. "Sorry," she whispered. It was a useful word in America. People could say it while leaving you outside. A year earlier, Mei had still been living in China with her husband, Wei. He had gone to America first, working on railroad crews and sending home whatever money he could spare. His letters spoke of difficult work but better possibilities. Then illness took him. His final letter reached Mei after his death. In it, Wei mentioned an old acquaintance named Arthur Bell in Silver Creek, Wyoming. If Mei ever came west, Arthur could help her find work at a laundry house. It was not much of a promise. But after Wei died, it was the only one she had. Mei sold jewelry, furniture, and nearly everything else she could live without. She crossed the Pacific with June. From California, she traveled inland. Weeks later, she finally reached Silver Creek. Arthur Bell had left town 8 months earlier. Nobody knew where he'd gone. The laundry had closed. And winter had arrived before Mei could decide what to do next. At the livery stable, an elderly man named Amos found her standing near the stove. "You can't stay here overnight," he warned. "I know." His eyes moved toward June. "Baby all right?" "He is cold." Amos glanced outside. "You got somewhere to go?" Mei didn't answer. That was answer enough. He rubbed his gray beard. "There's a ranch south of town. 3 miles, maybe less if the road hasn't drifted over." "Who lives there?" "Caleb Morgan." "Family?" "No." "Will he let us stay?" Amos gave a humorless laugh. "Couldn't tell you." Mei adjusted the blanket around June. "What kind of man is he?" "Quiet." "Good or bad?" "Mostly quiet." That was not helpful. Amos sighed. "Lost his wife and little boy years back. Fever. Been alone since." Mei looked through the stable doors. The storm was worsening. "He doesn't like company," Amos added. Mei pulled her coat tighter around June. "I don't need company." She stepped toward the door. "I need a roof." 3 miles became an entire world in a snowstorm. The road disappeared within minutes. Mei followed fence posts whenever she could see them, keeping the wind against the same side of her body so she would not unknowingly turn back toward town. She wrapped her coat around June. Cold entered through her dress. Her boots filled with snow. Twice she fell. The second time, she stayed on her knees longer than she should have. Not yet, she whispered. Whether she was speaking to herself, June, or Wei, she did not know. She forced herself upright. Then she saw it. A faint yellow light. A house. Mei stumbled toward it. By the time she reached the porch, her fingers barely worked. She struck the door with the side of her fist. Nothing. Again. Footsteps sounded inside. The door opened. A tall man stood in the lamplight. He was perhaps 37, broad across the shoulders, with dark hair, a short beard, and the worn face of someone who spent more time outdoors than in. A shotgun rested in his right hand, pointed toward the floor. His eyes went first to Mei. Then to June. Mei had prepared an explanation. Her husband's death. Arthur Bell. The boarding houses. She couldn't summon any of it. Please, she managed. Just until the storm ends. The cowboy looked beyond her. There was nothing behind Mei but darkness and snow. He stepped aside. Get inside. His name was Caleb Morgan. He learned hers 10 minutes later. Caleb gave Mei a towel, then disappeared into another room and returned with blankets. He never tried to take June from her. Mei appreciated that. She removed the child's damp outer wrapping herself. June whimpered. Caleb crouched near the stove. That's good. Mei looked at him. The crying means he's got enough fight left to complain. For the first time that evening, Mei almost smiled. Caleb heated water. He showed her a small guest room at the end of the hallway. A narrow bed stood against one wall. There was a wash basin, a chair, a small stove, and a window covered by frost. Not much, he said. It is enough. Caleb reached into his pocket. He placed a brass key in her palm. Mei looked down. You can lock the door from inside. She raised her eyes. Caleb was already stepping backward. I'll leave food outside. He closed the door behind him. Mei remained still. The key felt strangely heavy. Shelter was one thing. A locked door she controlled was another. She turned it. Click. Only then did Mei sit on the bed and allow herself to tremble. The storm lasted 6 days. On the first morning, Caleb entered his kitchen and discovered Mei standing beside the stove. June slept in a basket lined with blankets near the fire. Mei had found flour and prepared small steamed buns. Caleb stopped. You don't owe me breakfast. Mei placed one on a plate. I know. He looked at her. That seemed to matter. Caleb sat. He took one bite. Then another. Mei watched. Bad? He swallowed. No. Good. Caleb considered the question with ridiculous seriousness. I was hoping there was more. Mei smiled. There was. They developed a routine. Caleb handled the animals. Mei cooked because she preferred her cooking to his. She repaired a torn sleeve on his work shirt. He fixed the loose handle on her travel case. Neither called these exchanges favors. June recovered quickly. Within days, his voice filled the farmhouse. Caleb seemed unsure what to do with him. Whenever Mei carried June into a room, the cowboy suddenly found a reason to examine the stove, the window, or some object on the opposite wall. Mei noticed. She didn't ask why. Then she found the rocking horse. It was in a storage room beneath an old quilt. Small. Wooden. Covered in dust. Beside it lay a child's scarf. Mei immediately understood. She covered everything again. That evening, Caleb looked at her across the dinner table. You went into the back room. Yes. You saw it? Yes. He waited. Mei continued eating. Finally Caleb asked, nothing you want to know? It is yours to tell. Something changed in his expression. Not gratitude exactly. Something quieter. Trust, perhaps. When the sky finally cleared, Mei packed her bag. Caleb found her buttoning June's coat. What are you doing? Leaving. Why? The road is open. Road to where? Silver Creek. Caleb stared at her. You don't have anywhere in Silver Creek. I will find somewhere. You can stay here. Mei stopped. For how long? Until spring. As what? Caleb frowned. A guest. No. No. I won't be Charity. His expression hardened for a moment. Then softened as he realized what she meant. He looked around the kitchen. I need someone to keep household accounts. Mei waited. And cook when I'm working late. Silence. Some clothes need mending. More silence. Caleb cleared his throat. Apparently a lot of clothes need mending. Mei almost smiled. You are offering employment? Yes. Room included? Yes. Private room? Same one. Key? Yours. Mei considered him. Salary? Caleb named a figure. She shook her head. He blinked. Too little. Yes. They negotiated for 5 minutes. Caleb lost. Mei extended her hand. Agreed. He shook it. You're difficult. You opened the door. Beginning to question that decision. No, you aren't. Caleb looked at her. Then laughed. It was the first time Mei had heard him do it. Weeks passed. Mei proved even more useful than Caleb expected. One afternoon, she spread several receipts across the kitchen table. You are being cheated. Caleb removed his gloves. By who? Harlan Pike. Pike owned a general supply warehouse in Silver Creek. Caleb examined the figures. Feed prices went up. Not this much. Winter. Mei pointed to another number. Then why did the price go down for Mr. Bennett's ranch? Caleb looked at her. How do you know what Bennett pays? Mrs. Bennett complains loudly. He stared at the receipts again. Mei folded her arms. You are good with cattle. Thank you. You are terrible with numbers. Less thankful. She was right. By changing suppliers and correcting several inflated charges, Mei saved enough money to cover a large portion of the ranch's winter hay. Caleb never questioned her arithmetic again. June was harder to manage. One morning, Caleb was drinking coffee when the baby crawled across the floor and wrapped both arms around his boot. Caleb froze. Mei hurried forward. June. She reached down. Leave him. Mei stopped. Caleb looked at the child. June looked back. Then he grabbed Caleb's index finger. Something passed across the cowboy's face. Grief first. Then fear. Then a tenderness so unguarded Mei looked away to give him privacy. That night she heard tools from the workshop. Through the doorway, she saw Caleb sanding the old rocking horse. She continued down the hall without saying a word. Near the end of January, another storm struck Silver Creek. This one trapped a supply wagon outside town. Food became scarce. Coal was rationed. Then several children at a boarding house became sick. A writer brought news to Caleb's ranch. Fever. Stomach trouble. Half a dozen already. Caleb reached for his coat. Mei stopped him. Same boarding house. Most of them. Same food. Don't know. Water. Caleb paused. What? Where do they get water? They rode into town. Mei recognized the boarding house immediately. It was the third door that had closed on her. The owner, Mrs. Palmer, recognized her too. Embarrassment flashed across the woman's face. There was no time for it. Mei examined the kitchen, wash area, and water barrels. Behind the building, snowmelt from the stable yard had changed direction after ice blocked the normal drainage channel. Dirty runoff was flowing toward the shallow well. Mei stared at it. This water may be making them sick. A man nearby scoffed. You're a doctor. No. The answer was immediate. My father kept an herbal shop. I helped him. I know enough to know what I don't know. She pointed toward the well. Stop using this. Mei instructed families to boil clean water brought from another source. She washed cups and containers thoroughly and helped keep the sick children hydrated while Caleb rode with the sheriff to bring a doctor from a nearby settlement. One child was particularly ill. A little girl. Mrs. Palmer's daughter. The boarding house owner sat beside the bed, exhausted. When Mei changed the damp cloth on the girl's forehead, Mrs. Palmer whispered, I turned you away. Mei continued working. Yes. I'm ashamed. Mei looked at the sleeping child. Your daughter didn't. Mrs. Palmer began to cry. Mei didn't need an apology. She needed the girl to recover. And she did. Within 2 days, the number of new illnesses dropped sharply. No one died. During the crisis, Mei discovered something else. Harlan Pike's warehouse was full. Flour. Coal. Medicine. Supplies Silver Creek desperately needed. Pike had been holding them back, waiting for prices to rise. Caleb was furious. I'll deal with him. Mei blocked the doorway. How? Talk. Your face says something different. Move, Mei. No. Caleb stared down at her. She didn't move. Anger won't feed anyone, she said. That stopped him. Mei had receipts. Invoices. Dates. She brought them to the sheriff. An investigation began. Pike learned about it. That night, he loaded his most valuable supplies onto a wagon and attempted to leave town. He didn't get far. The wagon overturned on an icy grade. Pike and his driver became trapped in the storm. Caleb joined the rescue party. Mei stayed behind. Not because she lacked courage. Because Silver Creek needed organization more than another rider in the snow. She turned the church hall into an emergency shelter. Tables became beds. Blankets were counted. Food was portioned. Water was heated. Families were assigned places near the stove according to need. By the time Caleb returned with Pike and the driver, Mei had built order from chaos. Pike was half frozen. Mei helped treat him anyway. Later, the sheriff found his ledger among the recovered cargo. The evidence was enough. Fraud. Manipulated accounts. Supplies withheld despite existing contracts. Pike was arrested. Mei watched the warehouse doors open. Food went to families. Coal went to homes. Medicine went where it belonged. That mattered more than watching Harlan Pike punished. Caleb left Silver Creek with the final rescue group shortly before sunset. He didn't return. At midnight, his horse appeared at the ranch alone. Mei stepped onto the porch. The saddle was empty. One strap had snapped. Her stomach tightened. She sent a rider for the sheriff. Storms too thick, one rancher warned when they gathered. We wait until morning. No. Mrs. Zhao, he left from the western road. We know. He told me cattle shelter near a ravine there when the wind comes from the north. The men looked at one another. Mei opened Caleb's ranch map. If his horse slipped, it happened somewhere near this ridge. You're guessing? Yes. She met his eyes. Do you have a better guess? Nobody did. 4 men rode out. Mei went with them as far as conditions safely allowed, then helped direct the search from an old trail junction. They found broken branches. Then bloodless tracks in the snow. A damaged stirrup. Finally, a line shack appeared through the storm. Caleb was inside. Alive. His leg was badly bruised but not broken. When Mei entered, he was sitting against the wall beneath an old blanket. He looked up. For several seconds neither spoke. Then Caleb smiled weakly. You came. Mei crouched beside him. You opened your door. His smile faded into something deeper. I thought I'd return the favor. Caleb reached for her hand. This time, Mei let him take it. Spring arrived slowly. Snow retreated from the valley. Creeks ran full. Wildflowers returned. One morning, Caleb placed Mei's final wages on the kitchen table. She counted them. Every dollar. Correct? He asked. Surprisingly. He smiled. She placed the money into her bag. I found a storefront. The smile disappeared. In town. Near the bakery. What for? Sewing. Household remedies. Maybe help mothers with infants. Caleb nodded. That's good. Mei stared at him. Good. You wanted independence. Yes. So take it. His answer irritated her. Not because it was wrong. Because some small part of her had hoped he would ask her not to leave. Caleb lifted her bag. Need help moving? No. He put it down immediately. All right. Mei narrowed her eyes. Caleb smiled. She hated how much she liked that smile. The shop succeeded. Slowly at first. Then steadily. Mei repaired dresses, coats, gloves, and blankets. She prepared simple household remedies and sent anyone seriously ill to the doctor. Immigrant families discovered she would help read contracts and letters. Mothers came with babies. June learned to walk between the worktable and the stove. Caleb visited far too often. One Monday, he brought a torn shirt. Mei repaired it. Thursday, he returned with a glove. Saturday, a saddlebag. Mei examined it. There is nothing wrong with this. Stitching looks weak. It is stronger than you are. Can you fix that? No. She charged him anyway. Late one spring afternoon, a wagon stopped outside. Caleb climbed down. In the back sat the restored rocking horse. Mei became still. Caleb carried it inside. June's eyes widened. The boy hurried toward it. Mei touched the polished wooden handle. This belonged to your son. Caleb nodded. For once, he did not hide the pain. His name was Samuel. Mei waited. He was 4. I'm sorry. So am I. Caleb watched June climb onto the little horse. For years, grief had convinced him that loving anything new would somehow betray what he had lost. Now he understood memory did not work that way. It shouldn't sit in a dark room forever, he said. Mei looked at him. Caleb expected nothing. That was why she could finally give something freely. Dinner, she said. His eyebrows lifted. Something need fixing. Sunday. 6 o'clock. As payment? No. Caleb understood. I'll be here. Winter returned to Silver Creek the following year. Snow covered the roofs. Smoke rose from chimneys. But Mei Lin Zhao was no longer standing outside someone else's door. Her name was painted on the lease to the shop. Her money paid the rent. Her customers knew where to find her. June, nearly 2, rode the wooden horse beside the stove. And Caleb Morgan carried firewood through the back door as if he'd been doing it all his life. They had married that autumn. Quietly. Mei kept her business. Caleb kept his ranch. They divided their time between both. Marriage had not erased either life. It had joined them. One afternoon, a stagecoach arrived during heavy snow. Mei glanced through the window. Passengers scattered toward hotels and boarding houses. One remained. A young immigrant woman. A baby was wrapped against her chest. Mei watched her knock on one door. It closed. Then another. No room. The woman stood beneath the falling snow, uncertain where to go next. For a moment, Mei was back in the winter of 1888. June silent beneath a blanket. Her fingers numb. Every doorway becoming another answer she did not want to hear. Mei walked to the entrance of her shop. She opened it. The young woman looked over. Mei did not ask whether she had money. She didn't ask where her husband was. She didn't ask what country she had left behind or how long she intended to stay. Come inside. The woman hesitated. Mei opened the door wider. It's warm. The woman crossed the street. Caleb watched from beside the stove. As soon as the stranger entered, he picked up another log and placed it on the fire. No discussion was necessary. That night, their guest slept with her baby in the small room behind the shop. The door had a lock. Mei had made certain of that. June was asleep upstairs. Snow drifted quietly over Silver Creek. Mei and Caleb stood together beneath the porch roof. Remember the night you knocked on my door? Caleb asked. Mei looked at him. You looked angry. I was confused. You had a shotgun. It was pointed at the floor. You mention that every time. Because it's important. It is less comforting than you think. Caleb laughed. Mei rested her head lightly against his shoulder. A year earlier, she had stood in a Wyoming blizzard carrying everything she had left in her arms. A child. A letter from a dead husband. And the stubborn belief that somewhere in America there had to be one door that would open. Caleb had opened his. He gave her warmth for one night. He gave her a room she could lock. He offered employment when she refused charity. But he never gave Mei her strength. She had brought that across the ocean herself. In return, Mei had brought life into a farmhouse consumed by grief. She had protected Caleb's ranch from dishonest accounts. She had helped Silver Creek survive sickness and scarcity. When Caleb disappeared into the storm, she organized the search that brought him home. Then, when spring arrived, she walked away from the safety of his ranch and built something that belonged to her. Only after that did she choose him. Not from debt. Not from fear. Not because she needed a man to keep a roof over June's head. She chose Caleb because when she asked for shelter, he opened the door without asking what she would give him in return. And when she was strong enough to leave, he did not close his hand around her. He let her go. That freedom was what allowed her to come back. Inside the shop, the immigrant woman's baby began to cry. Mei smiled. A healthy, demanding cry. Caleb glanced toward the door. Think she needs something? Probably. Mei started inside. Then she paused. She looked down Silver Creek's snowy street. At the boarding houses. The livery. The road she had once walked alone. So much had changed. Yet somewhere, another train would arrive tomorrow. Another stagecoach would cross the plains. Someone else would step into an unfamiliar town carrying everything they possessed and hoping a stranger might see a human being before seeing a burden. Mei could not open every door in America. but she could open hers. Caleb held the door while she stepped inside. Warm light spilled across the snow. A year earlier, a cowboy had opened one door for a Chinese widow and her baby. Mei Lin Zhao spent the rest of her life making sure that kindness never ended with her.